My new friend Audrey, with whom I quickly became close in just a couple of weeks, became very dear to me. She became my first friend in life, and I was immensely happy about it. I had my beloved boyfriend, my first friend, and everything was great. We were sitting in the park, having a little picnic. Audrey brought delicious cookies, and while enjoying them, we chatted about everything. I then remembered that I'd forgotten my purse at Stanley's place, my boyfriend, so I called him, and he brought it to me in the park. I met him, kissed him, and thanked him for the purse. Then we said our goodbyes. We'd been together for many years, despite our young age. The thing is, we'd been dating almost since childhood. It happened that he fell in love with me, and I fell in love with him. There was another persistent girl chasing after him, but she didn't succeed. Stanley said that amongst everyone, he only saw me. And of course, it's always pleasant to hear such things. Audrey asked about my boyfriend and our relationship and was deeply surprised when she learned that we'd only kissed and nothing more. Absolutely nothing. Why are you still together then? Well, he has a great relationship with my family. We've been friends for a long time, since childhood. He's good and treats me well. I see. He's in the friend zone then? No, you're wrong. He's my boyfriend. Oh, really? Did he allow himself to be in a relationship? I'm sorry, what? I mean, call it whatever you want, sweetheart. It doesn't matter to me, but I like you. Come with me to our exclusive club. Not everyone is allowed in there, you know. Consider it my gift to you in honor of our new friendship. At first, I didn't want to go, but at some point, I thought that if I kept spending time only with Stanley, that's how my life would pass. The party was already in full swing when we arrived. People everywhere, most of them not very sober. One energetic guy quickly offered me a drink, but I refused, thinking he was rude. He spent the whole evening chasing after me, trying to start a conversation. In the end, he accidentally spilt cherry juice on me, and in response, I pushed him into the pool. I found it funny. Then I was about to leave when I saw him in front of me. You know what he did? He kissed me, right on the lips. I wanted to slap him, but he stopped me and said he'd just call me tomorrow. I didn't even have a chance to say anything else. And he did call. We started texting each other every day. I thought, what's the big deal? We're just talking. Maybe I'll have another friend. But I didn't tell Stanley anything about him or the party. A couple of days later, John asked me to help him with an essay for school, and I agreed. We met in the park. Afterward, he tried to kiss me again, but I slapped him in the face. Yet my heart was pounding inside. All my thoughts were about him. I didn't even want to answer Stanley's calls. I immediately confessed to John that I actually had a boyfriend, and he distanced himself, apologized, and wanted to leave, but I don't know what came over me. I kissed him then myself. I went home feeling happy. I had missed calls from Audrey, and in the evening, I told her everything. She said she was happy for me because that's how it should be, drawn to the right guy and no other way. Then I saw a message from Stanley and realized it was time to talk. I arranged to meet him at a cafe. Before that, I consulted with Audrey. She supported me greatly and said it was time to act like adults and end things with Stanley. When I walked into the cafe, I saw Stanley there with John? I froze at the door, and John quickly stood up and ran towards me. Hey, this is the one I told you about. Her name's Zara. She's my new girlfriend. I'd barely returned from Europe and I found her right away. My boyfriend just sat there in shock, and I felt so ashamed. Why are you here together? He's my brother. He recently returned from Europe, but you clearly knew that. So that's the reason you're ignoring me. My new boyfriend was also stunned. So you were dating him? How long have you been together? Like 6 years? So you're the Aura they talk about. Amazing story. Can't say much bad about it. What do you mean, the one they're talking about? What are you referring to? I don't want to see you anymore. I came home in tears and confusion. Fortunately, Audrey came over. She calmed me down and then took my hand and said we should go out for some fresh air. I'll take a shower quickly. Please get my bag ready, she asked, and I did just that. And then someone called her. The contact photo on the phone displayed John's picture. Why is he calling her? I didn't answer the call. But then I opened her purse and found John's notebooks in which we helped him with his homework. I didn't understand what they were doing there. But then I found a photo of Stanley. She was standing next to him, holding his hand. They were younger, around 6 years younger, and I started to understand something. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. I opened it and saw John. What? What are you doing here? Oh, hi, sorry, I must have made a mistake. Wait! I heard Audrey's voice from behind me. Ara, who's there? She came out into the hallway and stopped, then approached me, and I demanded an explanation. Who are you, for heaven's sake? How do you know Stanley, John, and me? Ara, the very Ara who took Stanley away from me. You're the Audrey who wanted to be with him? He talked about you. Exactly, darling. He chose you, and I played it differently, cunningly. So how do I know John? He's always ready to help me for a good $20. But with you, he decided to flirt for free. Consider it a compliment. So it's all just a game? You just wanted to get back at me. That's right, silly. I don't need Stanley anymore, but I wanted to get back at him, so I devised a plan. Thanks to his stepbrother for their bad relationship. They fooled me like a child, played with me, and threw me away. I made a lot of mistakes, and now I'm paying for them. I have to share my blame in this, but how can one behave so cruelly? What do you guys think? What would you do in my place right now? My friend Leah and I were supposed to meet up one day. She was, as always, running late, so I called her number, but my phone was silent, as if it wasn't working. That seemed strange. Then my smartphone rebooted, and through my turned-off phone, I heard the voice of my ex. I couldn't make out the words he was saying, but I felt a chill shudder through my body. It was David, and he was tapping my phone after all. Greetings from France. My name is Michelle, and I'll tell you about my first and most unforgettable love, David. Or rather, about why he was tapping my phone. He worked in IT and knew a lot of things, including how to tap phones. I just didn't think he'd be so obsessed with finding out the reason for our breakup. As you may have guessed, I was the one who broke up with him, but honestly, I've never loved anyone more than I did him. I just had to take that step. After hearing his voice, I just threw my phone into the river. At that moment, Leah finally arrived and caught me crying my eyes out. Later, we went to school, and entering my classroom, I noticed David sitting there. Can you imagine? He was sitting right next to my desk. Trying to keep a completely indifferent face, I just sat down and buried my nose in a book, trying not to shake. My heart stopped. He then introduced himself like a stranger, saying he was new to the school, but I didn't pay him any attention. He then approached me during break, asking me how I was doing. We had conversations about basically nothing, but it was so difficult. So I asked to be excused from the rest of school and ran home. Why was he in my class, in my school? Was he mocking me or something? 6 months passed, and he was still there. And then, bang! I stumbled and fell, landing on my knee on the asphalt. Ouch, the pain was terrible. You shouldn't run away from me like that, David said, applying a napkin. What are you doing here? Nothing, just following you, and I saw you fall. He sat down next to me on the ground and started treating my wound. I pushed him away and asked, Why were you tapping my phone? What do you want from me? He looked into my eyes and then asked me why we broke up. I couldn't answer that question. I didn't answer. And then, the next 45 days, he walked beside me and asked me that same question every day. I was going crazy. It was too difficult. He transferred to my school just to find out the reason for our breakup, and I had no other choice. So you lied and said you fell in love with his friend, whom he hasn't spoken to for a long time? How could you? That's not even true. Exactly, but he won't ask any more questions and he'll leave. You hit him so hard. Couldn't you just tell him the truth about why you broke up? You love him, don't you? I do love him, but what difference does it make? I ran home in tears and got lost in memories closer to our breakup. Just before our breakup, I started having problems at home. Debts, and it turned out that the house, for which my grandmother and I had been paying the mortgage for the past 10 years, was taken away by my uncle and we were kicked out onto the street. I couldn't tell anyone about this. It was shameful that we were so poor. On that day, my boyfriend approached me and said that he'd bought a ticket to another city for the weekend and I'd be able to fly on a plane for the first time. It was my dream, but I refused. I couldn't go somewhere to relax while my grandmother was in such terrible conditions. She had a heart attack too. I hurt David's feelings and we quarreled. Here, my memories were interrupted by a call from an unknown number. I was surprised because it was the first call to my old grandmother's phone. Your number is listed as a close relative or guardian. Our patient, David, is now in intensive care. Come as soon as you can. Out of fear, I ran to the hospital. The operation had already been done. He was hit by a car when he was crossing the road, and he had an open fracture of his arm. Luckily, everything turned out fine. While he was sleeping, I hugged him, and then his mother entered the room, the one who ruined everything. What are you doing here? Didn't I make it clear half a year ago that I don't want you a foot near my son? I did as you told me. I disappeared. Allow me to stay with him for just 5 minutes. 5 minutes? You haven't been in his life for half a year and he's been doing better, and now you show up? Did you find him yourself? Oh, he transferred to your school, right? He hasn't been talking to me lately. I immediately understood that it was your doing. Do you still want to milk our family for money? What did you say? Why are you talking about money? I didn't take any euros when we broke up. Yes, you did it for free. It surprised me, to be honest. There is something more valuable than money, but you wouldn't understand. You can't love selflessly. But don't worry, we won't ever see each other again. I wanted to leave, but David grabbed my hand. After waking up from his operation, he whispered, "Mom, I know everything." I couldn't help but respond to his tenderness and sat down next to him, hugging him again. I realized how much I'd missed him all this time, and at the same time, regretted listening to his mother and feeling ashamed of my poverty. He had found out everything thanks to his wiretapping, and for this reason, he decided to transfer to my school so his mother wouldn't be able to harm me. What would you do if your boyfriend's mother didn't like you and demanded that you broke up?